Broadcasting from Boston, Massachusetts, the ARC Digital Transformation Viewpoints podcast is the only podcast dedicated to all things related to digital transformation in energy, industrial, and critical infrastructure applications. The podcast is the creation of the ARC Advisory Group Digital Transformation Practice. ARC advises leading companies on technology trends and market dynamics that affect their business. To engage further, please like and share our podcasts or reach out directly on Twitter at ARC_advisory, or please go to the website at www.arcweb.com.
Welcome to the second in ARC's Industrial AI podcast series. And I'm really pleased today to have Philippe Rambach from Schneider Electric joining me to talk about that hot topic. So over to you, Philippe, if you please introduce yourself to the ARC audience.
Yeah, hi, Colin. Thank you for having me there. So Philippe Rambach, I'm working for Schneider Electric, quite a large company, 35 billion euro revenue, multinational, specialized in energy management and industrial automation. And I'm their Chief AI Officer since now 2 years.
Well, that's a great point for me to immediately pick up on, Philippe, the fact that you're a Chief AI Officer. I haven't really run across many of those. How long have you been in that role at Schneider Electric?
Yeah, actually, I've been in the role now since a bit more than 2 years. And to tell you the truth, I'm the first Chief AI Officer of Schneider. And I hope that I'm going to do work good enough that there will be somebody after me. So I hope to not be the first and only, but the first. But more seriously, Colin, yes, we took that decision, or the board took that decision 2 years ago to say we need to accelerate on AI and accelerate on AI at scale. So how can we really use AI to impact the way we work, impact positively the way our customers are operating or are using our solutions? And to mark this decision, we decided to appoint the first Chief AI Officer of Schneider at the end of 2021, I think, at a time where it was not that common.
Yes, timing is interesting because I was reflecting that perhaps it was triggered by the latest breakthroughs in generative AI, but you kind of predate that. So it is really visionary that you actually did that in that kind of time frame. But how long has Schneider been working with AI? And perhaps we should explore, what is your definition of AI? How do you think about AI and its the different methods and applications of AI?
Yeah, maybe let's start with your first question of how long, which is probably much easier than the second one. So I would say that actually in Schneider, we had teams working on AI almost since AI exists. I mean, since the early 80s, since the coming of neural nets and so on, we had people working on AI, but they were like part of the innovation teams, focused on technology, investigating what was happening, more, I would say, in a push mode to the business unit and the functions, more in a mode where there is this new technology, this is what we can do with it, and trying to kind of push it. But really close to innovation, central R&D, and these kind of things. 2 years ago, the change that we decided to make was to say, we really need now, we believe that AI is mature enough, and AI is not only AI, but as you know, availability of data, availability of compute power, all of that enables AI at scale. And we said we need to find a way to accelerate on AI, as I was saying, to bring value to customers, to our own employees. And what we decided to do was to say, let's first find a way to make AI at scale, which means, and I say that always, we start from the business value. We start from the use case. We start from a need from a business. We start from a need for a function. We start from a customer need. We never start from a technology, which is why probably we didn't try to have Gen AI, because the customer need, the business needs were there 2 years ago. And then we said, okay, how will we be able to address that? We will need people. So we hired a lot of data scientists, data engineers, AI specialists. We moved from being like 40 people 2 years ago to close to 300 now, 2 years later. And we work in a hub and spoke model, which is, many people do that, but our definition of hub and spoke is that the AI hub brings the AI competency, people from the function, like people from our services team, or people from our supply chain, or people from our finance, bring the rest. The rest is not only the product owner, like often, but is, of course, the product owner with the requirements, but also the people who will deploy the solution, the people who will train the users, the people who will market the solution, the people who will do the technical integration in the solution. And we follow Agile. We put all these nice people in a nice Scrum team, and that team delivers the full AI solution. So that was really the game changer 2 years ago, to say we move from innovation to deployment, and deployment at scale. And I briefly summarized how we did it. And then your next question of what is AI, I would say that we take it in a kind of the broader definition, which is anything that normally would require human intelligence that can be automatized using AI. And then fundamentally, the team we have built is here to take care of everything which is, I would say, too complicated to be done by a usual software engineer. Sometimes it is neural nets, sometimes it is complex statistics. I don't stick too much with what it is. For a company like us, if we take a practical approach, that team is the expert team with enough scientific, mathematical, and AI knowledge to address what cannot be addressed by, I would say, a standard software engineer.
That's fascinating. Several thoughts as you were sharing the history and your ideas around achieving technology at scale. That's certainly part of how we have looked at industrial AI and the impact on people, processes, and technology. And the reason ARC calls it industrial AI is we don't want to get locked into which specific AI technique to use. And like you, I have probably grayer hair than you, but I remember over 2 decades ago working on neural nets to solve multivariate control problems. And of course, we've been using machine learning techniques in predictive maintenance for decades. So AI itself isn't new. And we didn't really want to get locked into, hey, it's all about generative AI. But we'll jump ahead to generative AI perhaps later in the conversation. So very much resonate with this idea of AI, or specifically, or more broadly, technology at scale as really being the key point here. And you went from, I think you said from 40 engineers or data scientists and AI specialists to 300 plus.
Yeah.
So that's quite a ramp up over the last couple of years. I think the other point you touched on was always focusing on the business value for your industrial customers, and maybe let's explore that a little bit in the time we have. What are the key use cases? Where did you start, and maybe we'll get to some of the more future-looking use cases. But maybe talk about the most pragmatic focus on use cases that deliver value today to your customers.
Of course. First, I want to rebound on your comment on technology. And clearly, what I'm most afraid of is technology looking for a problem to solve. I'm much more keen on problems looking for technology to solve them. Because the first one can lead you into very dangerous MVPs and POCs and many of fun stuff, but no value. Yeah. But going back to your question, I would say where we see AI for our customers, for us, start from what we want to do as Schneider. So as a company, Schneider, our aim is to help our customers to be more sustainable. You may tell me that many companies say that today. We're proud to have said it since many, many years. But if I'm more specific, what we want to do is to help our customers to be more efficient in order to use less energy, and as possible, more green energy, and green energy means electricity. And here AI plays an absolute key role, because we see our customers in the last years, they have implemented automation, they implemented control system for their buildings, for their processes, for the data centers, for the management of the power in their plant facilities. They are storing the data. They have usually invested in software to visualize what's happening, help them make decisions. They even store that in the cloud. Lots of investment. And now AI is coming to unlock the value of all of what have been done. So what do we see for our customers? We see AI being used to optimize energy, resolve complex situation where you need to decide, and that's an example we take quite often, that you have different sources of energy, solar panels, the grid itself, maybe some wind generation. How do you optimize all of that? How do you forecast your consumption so that you reduce your energy bill and at the same time make it more green? Or if I take even things which are even more simple but bringing a lot of value, you can improve the way you use your asset, and in our case, especially our electrical asset. So if you have a remote management of your electrical assets, by adding AI to what we usually do, you are able to reduce the number, of course, of faults. You are able to extend the lifetime. You are able to reduce number of visits, which reduce the cost, but also reduce the risk of creating issue, because every time you send a technician on the site, you take some risks. So I would say, if I make it simple, is a lot about energy optimization, process optimization. And for that, coming back to your question on techniques, generative AI certainly helps, but the kind of traditional AI about forecasting, optimizing, detecting anomaly, and so on is absolutely super, super important, and probably still solving 70 to 80% of the technical issues we face. So to your question, I would say a lot about, again, energy optimization, electrification enablement, and also traditional use cases more focused around, vision for industrial automation is still super, super important. And there is still a lot to get from that.
Yes, and thanks for the reminder. Schneider Electric obviously has a much broader societal impact, in fact, on creating a sustainable future with everything you do around energy optimization and smart buildings, not just factories and industrial organizations. So I didn't mean to paint you into that corner, but I tend to think about industrial organizations as kind of ARC's core audience. But that was a great reminder. At energy, I think you touched on the fact that really, yes, you're using things like machine learning for anomaly detection, neural net technologies.
For many, many industrial people, the energy is a big part of the bill, and usually a big part which is not that addressed. Quite often you will see customers or partners who have optimized to death their process, but leave a lot of efficiency, both in a carbon footprint impact viewpoint and a cost on the energy side.
So maybe let's explore those two use cases a little bit more deeply. So you talked about energy optimization, and really the second was more focused around the kind of the service experience, whether that's the service technician having to go out or maybe not having to go to a customer, but being able to remotely do things. So maybe let's explore those two use cases and how AI kind of plugs into those two.
Definitively. So maybe starting by the energy. So I think it's clear for everybody that we need to decarbonize. I think if people doubt that, then it's another podcast probably they need. So let's assume we all agree we need to decarbonize.
I'll put my hand up and say I agree.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the support in my conversation. And by doing that, then you need also to first, you optimize your energy to emit less carbon, but then the next step has to be electrified, because the only massive energy that can be truly green is electricity. However, electricity is not by nature green. If you produce your electricity by burning oil or gas, you're kind of back to square one, emitting a lot of carbon to generate electricity to use. So you need to make sure that you are able to use more green energy and so on. So let's say you're a good citizen, you are a large building, a large factory. Let's stick with a large factory, for example. You have put a lot of solar panels in your roof. If you're lucky enough to live in a wind region, you have had some wind generation, maybe other green generations, maybe some batteries somewhere. And of course, the first level to be more green is just to, when the sun is shining, you use the power coming from your EV panels. That's good already, but you can do much better, because maybe today you've got power coming from your EV panels, but actually the power flowing in the grid is also green, and maybe you could buy it from the grid. So here where AI will help is AI will use machine learning to learn your pattern of energy consumption, learn how to be able to forecast your pattern of energy consumption over usually next 48, 72 hours. You don't need a lot of depth. And then taking that as an input, use other AI techniques to optimize your choices. And maybe today you will decide that the energy coming from your EV panels, it's better to store it for tomorrow, because tomorrow the grid will provide a very carbonated electricity, very expensive. Or actually it's even better to sell it to the grid, because you will not need it soon, and the grid would welcome a lot of green today, and so on and so on. So, and what I like in that example is very often people make an opposition between carbon footprint and cost. They say you either have to choose to be energy efficient, to be cost efficient, or carbon efficient. In that case, what I like is that electricity usually is very expensive when it is very carbonated, because it is expensive at the peak of demand, and at the peak of demand, it is produced by burning gas in gas power plants or coal power plants. So, Colin, not sure if I'm clear before I go to the next example on services, but this is the kind of things that we would implement with our customers to optimize their energy.
No, that's great, very clear. Perhaps let's explore how you're thinking about the modern service experience.
Here, what I would say is, despite all the fascination for all new things and so on, if you come back to an industrial customer, the key point of how do I make sure that my assets are always available, that people operate in a safe way, that I extend the lifetime as much as I can, as probably as old as industry itself. And Colin, I may have more gray hair than what you think, and have been seeing these issues since ever. And here AI can help a lot. And what we have done, for example, we have an offer, and maybe that's I will make an aparté, is everything we do in AI is always coming in addition to something we do already. Because if you want to really impact your customers, the planet, your employees, if you were doing something totally new every time, the adoption takes a lot of time. So what we do is we take a more careful way and we improve what we do already, adding AI. Typically on services, we very often remotely manage, control, upgrade the electrical installation of electro-intensive industries, for example, in our case. In the traditional model, you would send technicians regularly on site to check what happens, make recommendations, and so on. Using AI and remote management of data, we are now able to forecast when failure may happen, to estimate the remaining life cycle of the asset, make recommendation of saying, okay, you know what, we don't need to do the every 6 months regular visit, but actually we should do one very soon for your factory, or you could wait another year, which saves costs, of course, but also, again, every time you make a visit, you take some risks. And I have in mind one of our customers in the US, whom I was meeting, who was telling me, I need to have a 99.99999 whatever % availability. And for that, I cannot afford technician opening too often the door of my plant. And we have implemented for them an AI solution which is able to detect very quickly potential failure, then to say the failure is probably of that kind, so that the technician, when he comes with the right things to fix it. We all, in our personal life, have been so upset with technician coming, never having the right tool, the right thing. So we're able to say, this is the issue. We're also able, using AI, to say, hey, before the guy leaves, the issue most likely has been fixed. Again, frustration of the guy comes, then he leaves, and it's not fixed. And here, AI can really totally change the way we do services. And the last thing I would say, because safety for me is also super important, unfortunately, as you know, many fires still start from electrical installation. So we decided also to add to these services a new service where we are able to predict the risk of fire. And here the AI model is fairly simple to explain. On one side, we have a sensor who measures the temperature in the asset. And on the other side, we have an AI module who forecasts what should be the temperature. And if the difference is too big, then probably we are at risk.
That's great. Putting that safety aspect on it. I think I've talked with other customers that are also using kind of cognitive vision to observe people or machines and any anomalies that they can identify in how they're behaving, or even in access control. So from a security aspect as well. So there's lots of implications, I think, on safety and
even if I would
security.
jump on the last one, and that reminds me of something we have done also is you always face, especially in Europe, the question of GPRD and personal protection. So typically putting a camera to do access control can raise a lot of issues and questions. And we have worked on things relatively complicated, by the way, from an AI point of view, where instead of using camera, we see people, we use thermal things, thermal cameras, so that we don't face any issue of recognizing anybody, but we can still say there is somebody too close from that or too far from this. But sorry to interrupt you, just an idea coming to my mind.
No, that's a great point to make. I am aware of that, but I've seen use cases where, yes, they may not be recognizing faces is obviously a hot topic, something perhaps not thought about as being ethical from an AI perspective, but there are ways around that you're putting the spotlight on there. So that was a great point, actually. And so I guess in some ways we've touched upon another point that I really want to explore, and I'm exploring with everybody as I talk through this podcast series. Is I think there's two key points that I always explore. One is I think going to be very close to Schneider Electric's kind of mission statement, and that's really the idea that some of the cost of running the latest AI, certainly generative AI, is getting a kind of a bit of a bad reputation, justified or not. I think the jury is out on that for its use of energy. So maybe there's a paradox in trying to solve sustainability problems using AI. So that's one topic I like to just gather opinions on. And the other that you touched on already, and if we have time, we'll come back to, is thinking more about how you address the skills gap. You've kind of touched on it with the service experience, how it could make service technicians, get it right the first time, be prepared, and certainly that will help, but maybe exploring other use cases where we can address skills gaps in manufacturing and industrial. So maybe let's just, do you have anything to say about the sustainability paradox of generative AI?
That's something which is super top of our mind, because it would be kind of I don't know the word in English, but spending so much time, so much effort doing AI to save the planet, and at the end emitting more carbon would be a kind of not what I want to do every day when I go to work. So what we do, actually, we look at it as a ROI. So we look at, on one side, what is the carbon investment of implementing such a solution. And by the way, the carbon investment is AI, but also putting the solar panels, also, if I continue that example. And then we look at the savings, and we check, and we did that in a few in-depth studies, and we'll try to see how we can industrialize that more and more. We check the ROI. So far, no doubt, it's a ratio of 1 investment for 100 return. So AI is really, really bringing value on the sustainability and the carbon footprint. But one needs to be very careful. I will give you a basic example. We have developed a few solutions using generative AI. We have made the conscious decision, for example, to not use GPT-4V, but to use GPT 3.5, because it was good enough, because it was a bit cheaper, but also because they're emitting much less carbon. So I also think that we need to use the right tool. And sometimes people come to me and say, hey, Philippe, I have found a way that generative AI can do anomaly detection. Yes, But if a simple neural net of 20 parameters can make it also, maybe we stick with simple. And recently, we were at the end of an exploration phase of a use case, and the conclusion was a simple linear regression can do it. Great for the planet, great for everybody. Yeah? So for me, part of the answer to that is let's use the minimum we need to achieve what we want to achieve. And if we do that, so far, the checkpoints we have done are really good. It's like, again, 1 carbon invested for 100 carbon saved.
Mm-hmm. I think that's an awesome point that you're making there. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if you had more to say.
No, please go on, Colin.
I fully agree. I think part of our guidance to many of our customers is don't use the generative AI sledgehammer to solve every problem when there are narrower AI techniques that not just carbon footprint, but just cost, right? But obviously carbon footprint is a huge component of that cost and social impact. I'm very passionate about the tagline that I kind of created for Microsoft when I was there was manufacturing a more sustainable future, because it was really very much part of their ethos as well. But maybe that's also why I'm very passionate about impact on people, and particularly for manufacturing and industrials. They've had a skills gap for decades now, and it still seems to be growing, and maybe the fact that skills are changing and we need more AI skills or data science and AI skills in the business may change the profile of skills for industrial organizations, but there's still a skills gap. So I still like to explore how you think about the impact of AI on your customers, and specifically how could it help address that skills gap that they have?
Absolutely. Few things. I would say first, so far, every use case of AI that I have seen or developed improve or completes or supports or helps the people. I haven't seen any use cases where we could simply replace the people by AI for plenty of reasons. One of them being that AI is probabilistic, by the way, and also whatever we say of Gen AI, AI is still a very specialized tool, so it can help our people in a specialized task. It cannot replace what the completeness of what a human being is doing. So first thing, AI completes human. And you mentioned Microsoft. I have to admit they made a very good marketing, but it's true. Huh? The copilot concept is really good. AI copilots with men. It's a copilot to the man or the woman. It is not a tool that replaces men or women. So that will be my first thing. My second thing is, you read everywhere in the newspapers, AI will destroy jobs. People will lose jobs. When I meet customers, none of them says to me, I have too many people, I need to get rid of them. All of them tells me, I can't find enough people to program my PLCs. I can't find enough people to come to serve my install base. I can't find, and here AI will help a lot. And I will give you a few examples of things that we are doing or have done. Our services people, they are excellent people. They know inside out electrical installation. What they don't like so much is spending 2 days after a visit writing a report. Their added value is not excellent. Their English is better than mine, but not perfect. If we can say to those technicians, you can spend more time serving the install base and less time writing your report because we have helped you with the tool, they're going to love it. And we're going to still we are not able to hire as many service people that we need and want. Another example, PLC programming, coming back now really to the heart of your industrial customers.
Right.
It's a pain. You can't find PLC programmers. The schools don't train PLC programmers. A lot of automation programs are late because of that. If we are able to develop a solution to automatically generate code for PLC, and we are almost there, imagine the impact of the level of automation that could be done in factories and how we could open a brand new world of possibilities. So that probably, Colin, would be the 2 examples I would take.
That's great, and I'm aware that we are coming close to the end of our time. I'm sure we'll have a follow-on conversation on progress, which already seems pretty advanced at Schneider Electric, but perhaps some closing thoughts. What didn't I ask you about, Philippe, that you feel passionate about in the world of AI as Schneider Electric's Chief AI Officer?
I would say probably two things. Maybe first, if I may, a kind of advice for people who start on AI. I said it in the beginning, but really focus on what is your business needs, what is your problem, not what can I do with this new tool. This is really the key of the success. And then you will need people to find a new tool. We had to hire more or less 300. So you need the people, of course, but start with what is your business problem. And then the second thing, and I think you heard it from what I said, but I really believe that AI will be a key enabler to address the climate change problem, to address the carbon emission problem by basically helping people reduce their energy needs for the same outcome, helping people using more electricity, more green electricity, less at peak, and also helping people, and we didn't touch too much on that, but helping people adopt those new technologies faster and easier thanks to AI. And in that case, probably generative AI will have a very strong role to play.
That's awesome. I think that's a great closing to our conversation. So thanks very much for the insights, Philippe. I really do appreciate the fact that your English is fantastic and much better than my French. So thankfully we were able to have this conversation in English. But on that note, thanks very much.
Colin, thank you so much.